Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and once again, I'm going to be your host. We are back today with another location episode, a destination that I think everybody's interested in. If you've been there, if you've never been, I'm here with my guest today, Sam Wolhuter, to talk about Cape Town, South Africa. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hi, Becky. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be having this chat.
We are very excited to have you here, me especially because Cape Town, I have always dreamed about going to, and I actually had a ticket booked March 2020. I think everybody knows why I didn't end up going,
Yeah.
but it's been on the bucket list my whole life.
Well, you've definitely got a personal invite from this Cape Townian, so let's make certain you get there.
Oh, I hope everybody's going to get there after they listen to this episode. So, Sam, can you first tell us about your background and your connection with the digital nomad life?
Sure, absolutely. So I work in advertising, or I have done all my life, and excuse me. Um, In 2017, I literally did. I feel like it's a bit of the poster story, right? I got sick of the corporate world. I realized that I could fall back on my writing experience because that's how I started in advertising and I could start freelancing. I didn't really know about digital nomadism at all until I went to this incredible conference. And it was a UX conference, and this girl got up on stage, and her talk was the 10 steps to becoming a digital nomad, and she explained her life, and she was a developer, so it was difficult for me to initially see how I could do it myself, but then I was like, freelance, it's the same thing, now you just travel. So I diligently wrote down her 10 steps to becoming a digital nomad, and I followed them like to the letter. And by the time April rolled around, I had booked the Nomad cruise. I know that you've been on Nomad cruise as well, and that was my first foray into the digital nomad realm. And it was one of those 2 week journeys. And after those 2 week journey, that 2 week journey, I just knew that this was the life for me. This was my tribe. These people are felt the same way that they felt like family. I know it sounds weird, but I really just felt like I'd always been the odd one out in my life because I was a little bit different, and I didn't have like this feeling that I wanted to have a home and nest and all that kind of stuff. So to finally find people who had like this travel spirit as well, but also were very professional and wanted to work and see the world, I don't know, it was just amazing. So that's how I started. And yeah, I haven't looked back since then, since starting as a freelance copywriter. I've now built my own agency, and we're a brand agency called On the Run. And we are completely location independent. And the team is made up of digital nomads, and we work with clients across the globe. So we're almost like a 24/7 agency. And our entire ethos is around not sitting behind a desk to find your creativity, but going out into the world.
Wow, I'm so happy for you that you're able to watch that talk and then really make it a reality. And now you're all the way. So you are from Cape Town originally, is that right? And now you're living in the
That's
area.
correct.
How long have you
Yeah.
been back since I'm sure we're traveling around a bit.
So 2020 happened to me as well. And I don't know if you know, South Africa had a little bit more of a harsh lockdown than some countries. And we were still going through lockdowns up until 2022 in April. Add to that, there was also this period in, I think, 2021 where everybody started opening up. But then South Africa had discovered the new variant, and suddenly South Africans were blocked from traveling anywhere. So, like, my plans were completely scuppered at the end of 2021. So I took a job as a lecturer for 2022, and because we didn't know whether we'd ever be unlocked kind of thing. And that was great. But then in 2023, I managed to get back on the road, which was really amazing. And I went to Brazil and Argentina, spent some time in Spain. And now I'm living a bit of a different nomad life where I am on the road with my three dogs and my mom, and we're sort of road tripping up the west coast of the Western Cape. And that's been amazing. So you can also nomad in your own country, it appears.
Yeah, we actually have had an episode about that too. In that case, it was Spain, but it's a whole different journey, but it's really wonderful to have that flexibility anytime, even
Mm,
if you're back at home, right? So let's
exactly.
talk your home. Let's talk about Cape Town. So I wanted to start by having people imagining that they're looking up going to South Africa for the first time. What are the visa options like there now? Is it easy to just arrive with no paperwork in advance? How long can you stay if you do it that way as well?
South Africa has very different agreements in terms of visas across different countries. And I think that typically speaking, if you're from Europe or the US, you're probably able to get a visa-free 90-day visa-free entry. And after that, you are actually able to apply for an extension. I do recommend that you check whether or not your country does have this 90-day free stay visa, because I know that there are some very odd ones that you wouldn't have expected to not be on the list. So it is just very a good idea to check that. The other thing is that in October, we just ratified our digital nomad visa. You can go on the government website and you can learn how to apply for that and what is required for that. But yes, initially for most Western countries, I would say that you probably do have the 90-day free visa, and you can definitely do an extension. Visa runs are not recommended. For a while, it was happening where people were going from South Africa to Namibia, and some of them were doing it over road, and that ended up being a little bit of an issue. I do think that if you fly out of South Africa, there's no issue, and even if you do it over a day, that's okay. But road reissues of visas are a bit of a problem, so I would avoid that.
Thank you for that. And should we bring anything into South Africa with us if we plan to stay for the 90 days that it's hard to find once you're in the country?
So, funnily enough, when we agreed to do the interview, I actually thought this would be something that I'd need to ask some of my nomad friends. And I am actually pleased to say from Germany to Massachusetts, well, Berlin to Massachusetts, nobody said that they needed to bring anything. I think we have everything here in South Africa that you might need, including e-visa, I mean not e-visas, eSIMs, all that kind of stuff. So unless there's a special treat that you only get at home, I think you're good. I think you're good to come over to Cape Town, and we've got you covered.
All right, that is great to hear. That means I'm going to have less in my luggage for sure. Now, one thing I've heard, as I've said, I've never been to Cape Town, but when I read up on it, it does seem like it's quite a spread out place with very different neighborhoods or districts. What places
Yeah.
would you recommend that a digital nomad look at when they're coming in to stay for, like, let's imagine 90 days?
So I know that Sea Point is probably one of the big hotspots for nomads. And it's very convenient. It's one of those places that is very walkable. So I do think Sea Point or Green Point is always going to be a good bet. Um, if you're looking for something a little bit different, like for example, if you're a surfer, you're going to want to look at Tableview or Bloberg. They are quite a far way out of the city, but have epic kite surfing. If you are more of a surf kind of person or somebody that wants to be more in a like nature kind of space, I would suggest going to the Southern Peninsula to places like Noordhoek or Fishhook. These places, Fishhook is one of the cheaper ones, Noordhoek one of the more expensive ones, so it really does depend on what your budget is. But I'd certainly say Southern Peninsula is probably a good place if that's your vibe. We're talking about horses and walks and hikes and that kind of thing. Then I would say the other thing outside of, Green Point, Sea Point, and this Cape Town City Bowl, I want to mention my home and my love, which is Hout Bay. I do truly believe it's probably one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see in your entire life. So if you don't stay there, make certain you at least take a day trip over there. So yeah, there are a lot of great places to stay. If you want to really stay in the hustle and bustle of the nomad life, I'd say Sea Point, Green Point, or the City Bowl. The City Bowl, I would say you do just need to be careful. I think stick closer to a place called Tamboerskloof. I know it's a weird word to say, but that's also quite a good space. I'll spell it for you and send it to you so that maybe if you have it in the show notes, people will understand.
Yes, and also your favorite place that you said was the most beautiful, just so we have the spelling for
Yeah,
everybody.
perfect.
Yeah, thank you for delineating all of that because it does sound like more complex than a lot of places where you would land. So
Mm.
I'm curious, like, what do you think is kind of the, like you said, Sea Point? If people come into
Mm.
Sea Point, what is the best way to find accommodation these days for like a midterm to long-term stay in Cape Town? I really know about nothing. I just know Airbnb and Booking is where a lot of people often go first.
Yeah. So you can pretty much find most things on Airbnb or Booking. Those are great resources. There is another platform called Property 24. They don't actually delineate that it is that they just you can't select short stays as a filter. But if you choose your location and put in your price, you will see per day rates for certain places, especially now in season. The same would be for private property. But coming soon, I and a couple of my partners are going to be launching a new booking platform called Roost and Rest. And our focus is going to be not so much on heavy service fees, but rather on subscriptions and keeping prices as low as possible so that it works for both the hosts and the travelers, and also includes the South African community.
Oh, that is so exciting. Yeah, we did talk a little bit in preparation for this interview, and we decided we want to do a whole different episode on that platform
Yeah,
because it sounds so exciting. But you also mentioned when we were talking that it's gotten very expensive in Cape
yeah,
Town for accommodation. Is that
yeah.
true?
That is really true. And I think that it's one of those things, right? You start getting more Europeans and Americans and Canadians, coming across with a much stronger currency. And people have noticed it, and it's been getting worse and worse. But I think that I hope we're sort of at the peak, but it's now become a real problem, right? We're looking at a situation where locals can't even stay in the city. They need to stay further out because they cannot afford it. So I do think we have decided to create Roost and Rest with that in mind, realizing that we need to make certain that it is fair across the board, because I don't think price gouging is right anyway. Like we will lose our tourism, we'll lose the nomads if we become too expensive. And I sometimes feel like people are a bit short-sighted in that way. So they'll take the money now, not realizing that in the future it could really end up being something that they rely on, and then it's taken away because the people who are coming here just go, well, it's just too expensive. And I think people forget that South Africa is literally at the bottom of the world, kind of thing. And I mean, geographically, it's a one you couldn't get anybody who says South Africa is great more than me, because it is. It's the best country. But geographically, we're right down there at the bottom. It takes a long time to get to us. It's people are going out of their way to come to Cape Town. And I know that because I frequently have conversations with friends who I keep on saying, come to Cape Town, come to Cape Town. And, it's impossible for it to be en route to anything, because, a lot of the time us nomads will go, okay, well, on the way to Bali, we'll stop off in Thailand, or we'll stop off in the Philippines, and it's all sort of localized and you're able to do that. It's not the same with South Africa. So I really believe we need to find a solution that works for both sides.
Absolutely. And we both know there's many cities around the world where this is happening, and we need to
Mm.
finding alternative solutions for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. So I wanted to move over towards something another that digital nomads often really are concerned about, and that is where to work, co-working spaces, or maybe some co-livings if they're there. What are some of your favorite places or the most popular places to co-work?
So there are a lot of co-working spaces, and and I almost feel like there's a co-working space to match your needs and your budgets, you name it, right? And one co-working space that I like to work at is 2250. It's in town, so it's really accessible, and they're low cost, which is amazing as well. But they have really great studio space. So if you're a photographer or anything like that, or you're doing any kind of video work, they've got kind of studio space that you can utilize on top of like being able to work, being an agency. Sometimes I need that. So that's really great. But I know that there is also a really great group called Neighbor Good, and they have several buildings across the city, and they are co-live and co-work. Beautiful setup. I really enjoy them. I actually have run a lot of digital nomad events from there in terms of networking. So they've been a really great partner in the past. And I know that there are definitely co-working spaces in all of those places that I mentioned that you could stay at. There is at least a branch or a different kind of co-working space. It is very popular in South Africa to have these freelance office spaces because South Africans are largely entrepreneurial. So we have a really high level of entrepreneurs who need to have a hot desk. So it actually came about even before remote work came about and digital nomadism. We have a high influence of entrepreneurs. So you can definitely find a co-working space. And co-living is definitely becoming more and more popular. I think you'll find like neighborhood I would recommend is one of the first places that I would stop.
Actually heard this from another person on Nomad Cruise as well. So this is the second time I've heard about Neighbor Good. So for those of you listening and
Yeah.
watching, check them out. All right.
Yeah.
I think like you are in South Africa right now. You said you're on a farm and this Wi-Fi connection is seems to be fantastic. Is that generally the case in South Africa? How is the Wi-Fi situation?
Yeah. Listen, it's great. To be honest, we have really, really fast internet. And I am on a farm, and I think that we're on ADSL, to be honest, and it's still this strong. But most of Cape Town is wired for fiber. So you're looking at line speeds of 50 megs per minute, not per minute, per second, or 100 megs per second. So really, really good Wi-Fi, but I always recommend check with the host, ask them to send you a speed test. I think we do it in every other country, do it here as well.
All right. Now I want to move on to something really fun, food. What do you what are some local dishes that people may not have heard of that are really great? What are some of your favorites and favorite restaurants that you recommend or an experience with food that people shouldn't miss when they go to Cape Town?
Okay, so let me start with one thing that I saw this morning that we were voted as the best city for food in Condé Nast around the world. So there is that. So you're not going to struggle to find a good restaurant to eat, and we've got all sort of levels of restaurant that you can go to from your from the fine dining to your cheap and cheerful. Um, in terms of food, now there's this word called braai, and a lot of people don't know what a braai is. It's similar to a barbecue. It is not the same. It is a very, very culturally distinct way of cooking meat, vegetables, you name it. We put everything on the braai, which is on the fire. So try out a braai. The best kind of braai to try out is by finding a local friend and having them invite you around because you want to do it right the first time. So certainly a braai. For those people who are a little bit interested in more of a like a spicy and traditional meal, it would be pap and chakalaka. So pap is like stiff maize meal put together, and then the chakalaka is a mix of chilies, onions, and tomatoes, and it's in sort of a gravy. So that is very popular. I have to be honest, it's not one of my favorites, but I'm a bit of a fussy eater. I do know that others love it. Then there's just so many things, to be honest. Like it's very hard, but what's lovely is that that any visitor comes across the South African cuisine very easily because it's influenced in all of the restaurants. You know, it's there even in your Italian restaurant. There's a little bit of South Africa in it. In terms of my favorite places to go, there is an incredible ramen place called Three Monkeys. It's super, super busy. So, and they don't take reservations. So if you want to get there, you gotta show up either early or be willing to wait. But I'm telling you, it is totally worth the wait. So definitely go there and they do great sushi. Then there is another very hidden restaurant that not a lot of people know about. It's called NV80. And it's in a sort of really random shopping center that just has like a grocery store in it and a restaurant downstairs. And you wouldn't really know that it exists. And it's literally the best steak you are ever going to eat. So yeah, I'll go to NV80. And then I'd say the other thing is I know that we also have some really conscious eaters in the digital nomad group, and I want to let them know that they will be catered for. There are loads of vegan restaurants, there are a load of every menu has a vegetarian option. I've never seen it not have a vegetarian option. So it does mean that it makes it a lot easier for the vegans and the vegetarians to find something to eat.
Wow, Sam, thank you for all these gems. Getting me very excited to finally get there.
Good,
All right, now I have
good.
to talk about something that we hear a lot about with South Africa, Cape Town in
Mm,
general, and that is safety. How
yeah.
safe is Cape Town and what kind of precautions should we take?
So I always say to people, you must remember that South Africa is a developing nation, right? And we do have issues with poverty. And that means that there is a crime associated with poverty, but more often than not, it is actually a crime of opportunity than this deep-seated somebody who's like a seasoned criminal. It happens, there are those kinds of things. But most of the time, I found my friends can be safe by just being aware of themselves, where they're working, walking, what are they wearing, do they have their phone out with them, that kind of thing, because that creates and presents an opportunity. But at the same time, there are obviously, we've all gone through any big city and we take certain precautions. We don't walk alone at night. We don't go down the dark alleys. We don't go draw money at an ATM on the street in the middle of the night. All of those things that you wouldn't do in any other city, don't do them here. I think that it's important to remember that crime is a part of South Africa at the moment, but it's also important to put it in context. Because I think that there is a difference between having crime and feeling safe. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, right? Um, but I do know that there have been certain, like, it's actually sad. One of the things that people love to do in Cape Town is hike. And we've had a string of muggings happening with these hikers. And more often than not, it's somebody who's not even got a proper weapon. They're a homeless person and they're scary. And they're going to take their opportunities. So I always say, go everywhere with somebody. Don't do it alone because that's always the best way to do anything. We have incredibly strong winds on Table Mountain. If you hike on Table Mountain, you could fall and break your leg. Don't hike alone. If you don't want to do it for the safety side, just be conscious of what you would do to keep safe in any other city. And I think that you should be okay. Not denying that there is obviously a crime problem, but understanding context is important.
Yeah, so if I was a solo female traveler going to Cape Town and I wanted to go hiking and I hadn't met people yet at the co-working, would you say it's better to like book a group hike through a company if I didn't have any other way to connect with the community?
Well, luckily that is not the case. And I think what I'll do is I'll also share these WhatsApp group links with you so that you can share it with your community. There are several Nomad WhatsApp groups. There is also the Cape Town Digital Nomad Facebook group, which is what I run. And there you will find your community. You don't actually need to worry about being a solo female traveler because very quickly you will find people. There are regular events that happen, and I'm talking anything from board game evenings to hiking to, I think the other day I saw that there was a roller skating, but probably rollerblading group. But like you will find what you want if you just join these groups. And they're so active. It's not a situation where you land there and you're not going to see a message for people in days. They're active and people are planning things all of the time.
Okay, that's really good to know. How do you get around Cape Town? Do you need to rent a car, or is there a bus service that's really regular?
So I would say you're probably going to be using Uber a lot. I think that's probably the main way that nomads are getting around. And currently Uber isn't all that expensive in terms of, the exchange rate. We also have Bolt. I think that's the other service that we have here. If you're wanting to go a little bit out of town, because we have the most gorgeous places just an hour away from Cape Town in every direction, I would recommend getting a car for that. But I think generally everything else you'll be able to grab an Uber. That's what I would do.
Yeah, if you want to drive the garden route, right? I've heard of that. And just go to wine country as well. So it's
Exactly,
wonderful
exactly.
wines from South Africa.
Yes, yes. On that, I actually really meant to mention this earlier, but I do want to mention this. My favorite wine farm is called Bo Constantia. And it does the most beautiful wines, including a MCC. But what I love about it is that it's sort of set up on a hill, and there is this auditorium, grassed auditorium that you can sit down and have your wine and your cheese and have a little picnic and just look out at all the other vineyards in Constantia. And it's absolutely beautiful. So yes, we have great wine farms and there are millions of them, but that one is my favorite. So I hope people do go ahead, give it a visit.
Yeah. So we have this wine country, we have driving the garden route. What are some other of your favorite things to do on the weekends or day trips that people would do while they were visiting Cape Town?
So I think the things that we do on the weekend are often very outdoorsy. So you're gonna want to get down to the beach, and there are also options of joining, like kayaking clubs and that kind of thing. So it's a very active lifestyle, mentioning the hikes. Obviously, in the evening, we've got a very, very lively nightlife. So restaurants are great, as I mentioned, but we also have really cool things like from bars to clubs as well. So we've got a little bit of everything for anybody that they're looking for. The other thing that I'd really recommend, if you can, come see a live rugby match, or a soccer match in South Africa at one of the stadiums. It's just what we call, it's got great cheers, which is like great energy. So very well worth it. And then for the people that are more on the cultural side of things, I really recommend going through our museums. They're really beautiful and there is a lot to learn. We have one museum called the Slave Lodge, which is incredible just to hear the history. It's just amazing. And, like if you're also looking for something to do over the weekend and you've got a little bit of a short or tight budget, I really recommend going to the planetarium for a planetarium show. It's so awesome. And they have adult shows. So definitely take an afternoon and do that.
It all sounds so amazing. And you can just tell from this picture behind me. I mean, I know that has such a reputation for incredible beauty in Cape Town and
Mm.
around. So very excited to get down there and check it out. Is it
Yeah.
easy to connect with locals, true South Africans, while you're there as a digital nomad?
I think it's not the easiest, to be honest, because I think that local South Africans haven't really been immersed in the digital nomad space. So like the crossovers aren't as big as they could be. But I can tell you right now, South Africans are really, really friendly. Speak to us and you'll probably make a friend within 5 minutes. And I'm really not joking. It is something that we do. Like chat to us, say, hi, I'm here, at a bar or whatever, and you're going to have a mate or go to the paddle. I know paddle's a big thing. We've got paddle courts. Go there and find somebody to play with. I know it sounds a bit random, but honestly, I doubt very much you'll ever get a no.
It's great to know. It sounds like there's so much going on down there. And it's just, if you haven't been yet, everybody needs to put this city on their list.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to experience, and I think that this is the thing, is that it's a nice, almost soft landing into Africa, because I really just hope that people start traveling to more African countries, spending more time in, Botswana or Swaziland, which is a country inside of South Africa. It's actually called Eswatini now.
Yeah, for sure. I do think Africa is going to get more and more tourists. It's really starting to get onto the digital nomad scene with more of the visas, for example. So, yeah, it's a great reminder. And I realize I should ask you this too. What's the best season to go to Cape Town?
So I would say it's not so much a season, it's a period of time, because it sort of runs all the way into fall, but it still feels like summer. So I'd say you're good to start coming to Cape Town from November and staying all the way until May.
Wow. All right.
And that's the summer season. Listen, if you're in for a winter season, which is rainy and cold, but we've got cool things going on in winter as well, then you can come any time of the year because there's always something going on.
And probably lower prices as well.
Yeah. completely.
Yeah. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your incredible knowledge about Cape Town. I really hope people watching and listening have been inspired to go. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us, including where people can follow you before we go?
I think just sort of closing words, aside from please, everybody come to Cape Town, it's awesome. Um, is that it's important to remember the country that you're coming to and the context of the country and everything like that. So, and just to be, aware of that and help not contribute to what is a very big divide between the rich and poor. And and that can be in so many ways. And I think we know internally what those ways are. Support locals, make certain that you're buying from the individuals rather than the big chain stores. Really like put your time into supporting the locals, and I think that they will really appreciate the business. So yeah, that's the only thing that I'd really like to close off on. I think, as we say in South Africa, local is lekker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's these other languages too of South Africa,
Yeah.
right? Like I know everyone is gonna speak English because it's one of
Yes.
the official languages, but also Afrikaans. And there is a
Yes,
third
correct.
one, right?
Actually, we have 11 official languations in South Africa.
Whoa, I am being schooled
And
here.
that actually
What are
doesn't
the 11?
include.
Go.
I am not going to make it through all 11, but I can give you like at least five. So we've got English, Zulu, Xhosa, which I'm not saying correctly, because it's got a click in it, and I'm not going to try because I will embarrass myself. Then there is Spedi, Venda, Afrikaans, we mentioned, and then I am stuck on the race. There
It
are
just
11 in
shows
total.
how much there really is to learn and how much we don't know as people that,
Yeah,
haven't been before. So really, everybody put this place on your list. And I hope that, things can start to get better too with the pricing and, just spreading the joy of Cape Town.
absolutely. And then you did say, how can people reach me? I really recommend going onto Facebook and joining the Cape Town Digital Nomad group. And you can DM me from there if you have any questions ever. And keep an eye out for Roost and Rest on Instagram. It'll be Roost and Rest SA. And yeah, we're launching that in Jan, so not a lot happening right now, but keep your eyes on it. And yeah, that's all from me.
Thank you so much, Sam. And as we said, we're going to talk more about this company coming out in January soon. So be watching out for that. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely day, Sam.
You too have an awesome day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.